Hey everyone, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the fact that our games in the sandbox continue. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember, you can find a link to the premium list. We are having a sale on that. You can find a link to that in the description below as well. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, despite all of the recent volatility in the market, Bitcoin is still more or less playing in the sandbox. And that simply has not changed, right? Now, it's easy for recent moves in the market to bias our opinion. But as long as you go into the market with the right mindset on what your expectations are, then it makes it a little bit better to sort of tune out those emotional responses to moves in the price. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. If we think about it, our sandbox, at the very least, would extend up to the region which we've gone to, okay? And arguably, you could say it goes all the way up to the 20-week SMA, but that's a moving target, right? So you can't just put a price on that because it changes every single week. But we could look at this one and say, wow, I mean, you know, below 42K, more or less, 42 and change, whatever, we are still playing in the sandbox, right? We're not above the 20-week. We're not putting in new all-time highs. We're not doing that yet. Now, I believe we will at some point do that at some point this cycle, but who cares when it happens, right? If it doesn't happen tomorrow, it just means you have more time, right? It means you have more time to prepare. If it happens a month from now or 2 months from now, it doesn't matter. It simply does not matter. And in fact, a lot of people, I would say the people who have been around Bitcoin longer, these are the people that would like for it to stay at these levels or lower for even longer, just so they can accumulate. Now, I say that because remember, bull markets make you money, bear markets make you rich. Okay, so what I mean by that, well, not all bear markets will make you rich, depending on what asset class you're buying. I mean, there's plenty of funds, international funds and whatnot, that if you just bought it in the bear market, it's just been a 30-year bear market, right? But with Bitcoin, our biased and deterministic assumptions that it should trend up with time sort of help us navigate that. Okay, so when you get into crypto, you basically start with Bitcoin and you just sort of assume that it will slowly trend up with time, and you assume that based on the data. And then from there, you recognize there's phases when the market's really bullish and then phases when the market's really bearish. And that's the time when the market is bearish. Usually that's the time you want to be loading up, not when it's up here, right? Not when it's up here. And that's the important thing, right? There are a lot of people up here saying that, you know, Bitcoin was about to go to 100K or about to go to 300K. You guys remember, it wasn't that long ago when that happened. And we told you guys that we were ahead of schedule and that we needed a pullback, right? We were ahead of schedule based on the market cycle ROI. We needed a pullback in the summer. We needed that summer lull to come, okay? This is what we said we needed. And then from there, we could sort of regroup, okay? So when I said that, I said 3 to 6 months. It's been 3 months, so we're at the lower bound of it. Could extend longer for all we know, especially if we get rejected here and come back down for another wave. But when you look at this, nothing has changed. And let me like sort of elaborate on what I mean, okay? Now, over here, when the price was moving up and we hit, 34K for the first time ever, everyone was super bullish, right? Everyone loved it. And then when we hit it on the way down, everyone was super bearish. On the way up again, super bullish. People were bullish here. You guys remember everyone calling for a V-shaped recovery? We told you guys don't expect a V-shaped recovery, right? But yeah, they were calling for a V-shaped recovery. That didn't happen. We came back down. And every single move, right? Every single move, depending on what direction you're going, is what sort of sets the mood. Okay, so a few days ago, we were trending up. And, we hit 38K for the first time since mid-June, and everyone was super excited. And then went up to 42K, and then on the way back down, again, people were somewhat afraid again. And what I would say is to remember that this range is nothing more than our sandbox range, okay? And nothing has changed. It's the same thing over and over and over. So when we look at this and we go over to say like the weekly time frame, this is the more important time frame, and we pull up our bull market support band, We know what needs to happen, right? It's not like a mystery what needs to happen. Bitcoin needs to get about the 20 week and then come back down and hold it as support. Maybe that means a rally to 47K, 48, 49K, maybe even 50K. Maybe that's what it means. And then we have to come back down to 40K, 43K, 42K, hold it as support for a while, and then we can move up. That's sort of, that would be like the bullish case in the short term. That's what needs to happen. It's not like a mystery. And the longer that doesn't happen, then later on, the easier it becomes. Now, you might say, well, what does that mean, right? Well, remember, the 20-week SMA is moving down, okay? So, for instance, imagine we are unable to get past it at 43K. Imagine we're unable to get past it. And we come up and we either get rejected here at 39K, 40K, 43K, whatever. And let's say we come back down. That would be the more bearish case. Is that an issue? I don't think it's an issue, because then it just means the 20-week SMA is going to continue coming down. And then on our next attempt, the 20-week SMA will be lower, and then it'll be a little bit easier to hold it as support. And remember, the 20-week SMA doesn't really matter what it is. The absolute value of it is irrelevant. It's just that being above it, the sentiment that provides into the market is so strong that holding it as support can send you on these crazy rallies. Okay, so that's what needs to happen. There's no secret to it. If we spend another day below the 20-week SMA, okay, great. We had plenty of opportunity. If we spend another 3 months below it, even more opportunity. Okay, so again, when you navigate this market, recognize that this is just playing in the sandbox. Now, there are a lot of people out there. Okay, there are a lot of people out there that are calling for, I've seen it. I've seen a lot of different ranges, right? I mean, I see people saying $0 for Bitcoin, which obviously that's not going to happen, because I'm going to buy all 21 million at 1 cent. But I've seen 3,000, 5,000, 7,000, etc. To be honest, guys, I don't think that's ever going to happen. When you think about Bitcoin, you always have to be careful about what you say can happen and cannot happen, because Bitcoin has a way of proving people wrong, right? So, but I look at these markets and, we have all these different indicators and whatnot. I would say those levels are a pipe dream. Sort of like the same people who are calling for, $1,000 Bitcoin once it had already gone to 3,100, right? They're calling for it to drop, another 70% or something. I don't think that's possible. I don't think those values are ever possible again. I don't think 10K is possible again. I just don't. Right? I mean, I think that that phase is gone. And we spent a long time below that phase. On the channel we talked about these prices over here for a long time. This was the accumulation phase for the cycle. Okay, this is the accumulation phase for the cycle, and I sincerely doubt we're going to go back down to those lower values. Normally what Bitcoin does is it goes up and then it retraces, but it doesn't retrace back to the values it was at before the major move. So let me show you. So if you go back, right, Bitcoin here, it went up to $32 and it came back to $2. You may say, well, that's a pretty big drop. Yeah, but it started at a few pennies, okay? And then here it came up to $1,100, $1,200, and it came back to 165, but it was still a lot higher than where it had started. It was still an order of magnitude higher or more from where it started. And then you continue on. Here we started off at $200, 165. We went to 20K. We ultimately came back down to $3,000, which was still, again, more than an order of magnitude above where the last accumulation level was before it. So with that in mind, the idea that Bitcoin is going to go back down, to these levels, I think is somewhat absurd. Okay, I really do think that is somewhat absurd. Now, you might say, well, could it go down lower than 29K? It could, right? In the event of some major sell-off or something, I could imagine it going below 29K for sure. But anytime, if we were to go below 29K, let's say we go to 25K or 20K or something, 20K is sort of like worst case scenario, I think. If it were to go to those levels, I don't really think we would spend very much time there. So it'd probably just be like a wick or something if that were to happen, kind of like March of 2020. So if we saw something like that, just remember that it would very likely be extremely short-lived. Okay. And so I know there's a lot of people that are sort of thinking, hey, Bitcoin has to go back to 7K or 5K. I sincerely doubt it. And I mean, I try to be as real with you guys as possible. I mean, back over here, I said, hey, I think the price is going to go down. I think we're ahead of schedule. We need a summer lull in the market. I'm not afraid to tell you guys if I think the price needs to go down for a while. So when we look at this, I just say, we've had a summer lull at the very least. We've had 3 months, which is what we said. At the very least, we need 3 months. Okay? Let us have 3 months of a lull in the market. Give us those 3 months. But we reserve the right to carry it up to, say, 6 months. And if it goes to 6 months, then I'll probably just end up being, I'll just be more bullish on the market if it lasts another 3 months. But if we go out, if we come out now, I think that's perfectly fine. It's more in line with the idea of diminishing returns being below the last cycle's ROI. And now what we need to do is we just need to get above the 20 week, right? We need to get above the 20 week, hold it as support, and then continue our journey. Note that if we do get above the 20 week and come back down and hold it as support, there's probably going to be, I would assume there's going to be a decent amount of time spent in this region. Now, I don't say that lightly because, everyone remembers back to 2019 when everyone said, it was going to take us forever to go past 6K because of this line in the sand here. And then we just shot right through it. Okay, we just shot right through it like it wasn't even there. But, that while that may be the case, I would still argue that the amount of money necessary to really push this thing to 100K is going to be substantial. And there's probably a lot of people that bought up here. And that's something to consider, okay? So remember, in prior moves where you have these major tops and whatnot, there aren't a ton of people, and there's not like a ton of people that bought right there. I mean, there are some, and you might think that everyone bought there because of sentiment in the market. It's just that the people who bought at the top are the loudest, right? They're just the loudest because they complain about buying at the top. But over here, there were a lot of people that bought. I mean, we were there for February, March, April, May. We were there for a long time. So with that in mind, there's a lot of people that bought Bitcoin, okay, when it was at like 60K. And because of that, I'm guessing they're going to be looking to cover, maybe just cut their losses, whatever. I think it's going to take us a little while to get above those levels and continue trending higher. One way that it could play out, right, I'm just thinking hypothetically here, is, and very, very hypothetically, let's assume, most bullish scenario, right? Well, I guess most bullish scenario that's realistic, because some people will say the most bullish scenario is we just go straight up and we don't look back, right? But let's say most bullish scenario that's realistic is we go up, maybe we go up to 50K or something, I don't know. And we come down and we test the 20 week, right? And then, we come back up and maybe we put in a new high. Maybe we put in a new high before the end of the year. And then we're still probably going to have to be testing the 20 week, okay? So just keep that in mind. Keep that this is a long grind and that we have, probably a ways to go before we're looking at new all-time highs and even longer to go before we're looking at six figures. But anyways, I just want to give you guys my thoughts on the market. I mean, obviously the market sentiment right now is pretty good because we've been trending up the last couple of weeks. Keep your eye on the 20 week and to see, is that going to be an area of rejection? Are we even going to make it there? If we don't even make it there, then that will look pretty weak, right? If we don't even make it there and we start, if we come back down to the low 30s or something, then I would definitely say, all right, guys, we're probably in for the 6 month time frame for that lull in the market. We're probably looking at the 6 month time frame rather than the 3 month time frame. So I think August will sort of elucidate more about what's going to happen in the market. This is probably the month that will define whether we get above the 20 week now or if we get rejected and then test it again a couple months later. Okay. So if you guys like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember to check out the sale on the premium list. You can find a link to that in the description below as well if you want to know how I'm navigating these markets. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, click the bell icon to turn on your notifications, and I will see you next time. Bye.